Greetings, loyal listeners. You are now listening to an encore presentation of a B30 sharing session. So please stand by as the previously recorded podcast will begin shortly. Thank you once again for choosing B30 for your listening pleasure. So I spent the summer on a university campus, one of the top places to meet some of the most colorful and interesting people around the globe. I spent August, July, most of August, hanging out with people from different backgrounds, different belief systems and whatnot. Like a lot of linguistic majors, some undergrad students, and a lot of public school teachers. But anywho, I'm working on these projects where we're making lesson plans and we're constructing activities, and I ended up in a group with two public school teachers. I think they're both from Richmond, but one in particular was East Indian, and she was Muslim, and she was a married mother of two, and I think she's called a resource teacher, where they teach like ESL and kids with special needs. I'm not sure. But the point is, it was cool working with people with different backgrounds and different interests and whatnot. And the thing with this one particular teacher slash classmate was that she had these like quiet leadership skills about her. She was really demanding, but it wasn't pushy. She has this really calming voice. It's really motherly, so you kind of want to respect her and you kind of want her approval. So even though sometimes she's like crazy emailing you 3 emails in less than half an hour, it's kind of weird. But what's interestingly enough was during the first week of August, she usually floods us with emails telling us to get this stuff together. But then during class time, she said, I'm going to be very silent for this day and the next couple days because I'm celebrating Ramadan. And I'm like, cool, okay. I know you mentioned something about Islam. And then she just kind of briefly talked about it, like, I'll be fasting and I'll be tired and stuff. I'll probably get back to you at night. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And the thing is, I never really talked about my own background. I just tell people I go to an international graduate school that focuses on Christian studies. So I let her just piece 1 and 2 together, that I'm kind of on the other side of the fence, so to speak, in terms of religious beliefs. But it was kind of cool how we just got along together really well. And we were really respectful. And I guess in an intellectual environment, you're all civil and courteous. But it felt sincere. We weren't being phonies. And I was just thinking about her fasting. And then sure enough, I stumbled upon this article titled Why Ramadan Matters to Christians. No joke, like within 2-day period after hearing about Ramadan, I come across this article by John Huskins. And actually, I'm not quite sure what Ramadan is. Is it like a new year? Is it some kind of like beginning of the month thing? So I'm still a little fuzzy on the details. But when I read John Huskins' article, he kind of mentions that Ramadan is when the Muslim community around the globe just fast every day from sunrise to sunset. And then that means obviously no food, but also no water. And you also have to abstain from certain, I wouldn't say indulgences, but certain, I wouldn't say luxuries, but something that's enjoyable like sex. You're not allowed to have sex, you're not allowed to have tobacco as well. So it's kind of like physical and spiritual and psychological cleanse, is my understanding. However, at the end of each night, they have a celebration feast to kind of break their daily fast. And that celebration feast at the end of the day is called the iftar meal. The symbolism, the meaning, and the value behind it is it's a sacred, joyous time where people who fasted all day now get to sit together and worship and be appreciative and grateful of things in life. And what I mean by worship is they worship Allah, the Arabic translation of God. So I admire that. I don't show that level of piety or devotion or commitment in my religion or faith, but I guess it's something that I can learn from. Putting in that commitment, that physical commitment of fasting, and it's an element in Christianity that perhaps I should explore in the future. But anyways, I kept reading on further into the article, and then I just found a really cool point the writer made. Our common sense is that if you're of a certain belief system and someone's of another, you kind of stay in your own bubble. It's kind of a very separatist kind of vibe. Everyone stay in their own little faction, and then you just coexist. Don't bother us and we won't bother you. And also, I guess a little misconception on my part is, if you say, I am a Christian, and say I'm to hang out at like a Jehovah's Witness church or go to a mosque, I think that might be considered scandalous, or that might raise some eyebrows, because you're supposed to stay in your own team, and there's this fear that if you go somewhere else, you might like an act of defiance, or you're trying to start trouble, or maybe you're weak in your faith, oh no, and you'll be lost forever. It's kind of like
the Cold War, Russia versus North America or US, where, oh, I'm gonna defect to the other side and be a spy. It's kind of stupid when you think about it. Anyways, the author wrote, "We don't compromise our faith by hanging out with people we may not agree with. In fact, when we do that, we reflect the very best of our faith." So I thought that was pretty profound. You don't compromise your faith when you hang out with people with a different religious background. In fact, it's an opportunity to reflect the very best of your faith, represent the best aspect of your belief system. So it's all about respect, understanding, and learning. And when you do that, you kind of put aside, my religion has to be the right one, the only right one. And you kind of take away that moral and philosophical and spiritual superiority you have over other religious beliefs. And that's hard to do because Christianity is kind of a very offensive religion. It's always promoted that they were the best religion, they are the only religion, and they have the only true God. So it's a real adjustment, perhaps for some more on the conservative side, that they have to be respectful and understanding, and that you can actually learn from other religions. What? Can't always be all superior to others. Sometimes I do that too. Something I have to work on. It's interesting when you hang out with people that are different from you. It's kind of paradoxical that people who are different from you actually share very common characteristics. Whereas people with the same background as you, there tends to be some variation and diversity. So if that makes no sense whatsoever, think of it like a social science, psychology, sociology term where there is between group similarities but within group variability. What that means is you'll actually find more similarities between two different groups, or so perceived two different groups, and you'll actually find more differences within one which you thought was a homogeneous group. But nevertheless, there is shared humanity when you spend time with people that are slightly different than you. I treasure those times, which I had during my summer at the university campus. What else did I learn that I could apply in life? It also made me evaluate how I present or just communicate my religion to others. If I were to ask someone to come to church, go to a Christian fellowship outreach event, usually the format is, oh, we have this event happening, please come. And then there's that big piece of food hanging off the face, so to speak, out in the open. Why should I come? Because it's fun? Because your life is lacking something and we want you to join our religion and your life will be more fulfilling? Like, how offensive is that, really? It's really hard to ask people to come to a religious event or observe some religious worship thingy. Lack of a better word off the top of my head. But if you reframe your approach to outreach and evangelism, instead of that awkward moment where you go up to a friend or casual acquaintance and invite them to a church event, a church service, when you go up to them, just think of it as there's an aspect of your life that is really important to you and ultimately defines who you are. And your hope is to create a space in your daily practice where you are inviting those people to experience that key part of your life with you. What that means is you go up to a person and you're like, hey, I go to church. It's a big part of my identity. It's a big part of my life and how I live it. And I want to share it and I want you to experience it with me. And you can't make guarantees and promises that it'll be a life of wealth and health, but it's an aspect of your life that has a lot of meaning, has a lot of value, and you really want people to experience it with you. And I guess if you think of it that way, it's not as awkward or intimidating to ask people. So I guess that's what the gospel is in a nutshell. It's something life-giving, and you can't keep it to yourself, and you just want to share it. And ideally, in your own personal spiritual journey, if you're at that stage where you can't keep it in and you want to share it with other people, then that's great. But if not, you're still kind of wavering and you're still kind of unsure about it yourself, and it's awkward to bring it up in like a very secular society where we try not to point fingers and make people feel awkward, then keep at it. And I guess this is a good time to end this off. So thanks for listening, and goodbye.